Are you ready to unravel the mysteries of human existence? Did you ever take a moment in life to question who you really are? Are we just mind and body, or is there something more to us? In the rat race of life, with stress creeping in form of lifestyle diseases like diabetes, insomnia, hypertension, Crohn's, and many more, did you ever try to find the root causes of this suffering? Let's take the first step to stop this invisible enemy within, before it takes toll on the human survival. Welcome to Health is Wealth.
My name is Swetha. I am a high school teacher in the Surrey School District, and I've been a teacher for the past 5 years. I'm also very interested in human systems and dealing with human systems in conflict. So I decided to also do my master's in conflict analysis and management. And that has been an interest of mine because I was born and raised in Sri Lanka. And this has been a huge influence in my meditation and in my path to coming to Sunita and Sookshma. I initially came to Sunita because of my dance teacher. I had a very big interest in dance. I had been dancing since I was 4 years old in Sri Lanka. I danced Canadian dance, which is the traditional dance in Sri Lanka. And when I came to Canada, I decided to take up Bharatanatyam, which is an Indian classical dance. And my teacher, Sudhnya Naik, introduced me to Sunita and explained how dance also has a meditative aspect, and thought it would be beneficial for me to meet Sunita and experience Sookshma in that way as a benefit for my understanding of dance. It did help me in my dance. It helped me to understand the philosophy behind dance and how dance could essentially be a meditation, and how you could understand the different concepts in dance beyond just the physical, beyond just presenting something that is visual to an audience. So it became something that was very close to me. And after my dance practice began and I got more into dancing, I didn't come back to Sunita until much later, maybe about 2 or 3 years later, when one of my friends introduced me back to Sunita and said, you should go back. And at that time when I came back to Sookshma, it was not because of dance. It was not because of anything that was going on in my external life. It was more for my internal search for meditation and trying to get to something that was a little bit more inside of me, and to answer questions that I had about meditation and soul in general. I took sessions with Sunita before my graduating recital, which was a 2-hour solo show. I had to do by myself, and before the show, taking those sessions made me a lot calmer. It made me understand why I was doing the show. It wasn't just because I wanted to dance for 2 hours. It made me understand what it meant for myself, what I was learning from those 2 hours of dance. And even the items I was dancing, what did they mean to me, myself personally, and what those would mean to me in the future, because you become more aware of what you are doing in the present. So it made me realize how the dance that I was doing and the practice I was doing would be a benefit for me as I grew older and I became an older dancer. Before, when I came for dance, it was more of a purpose. I had a goal that I had to attain, and Sookshma made that easier. It made it more clear, made that goal more clear. When I came for personal reasons, there wasn't such a goal in mind. It was a lot of things that had been accumulating in my mind from when I was a little child. Growing up in Sri Lanka, it's a Buddhist country. You hear about meditation all the time, you hear about Buddhist philosophy. So I had always grown up with that, but I had grown up Catholic. So I had that side of my mind as well, my experiences where I saw two different faiths. And as I grew older and I came to Canada and I was experienced even more different belief systems and different people, I began to question where I fit in and what was my take on spirituality, what was my understanding of my own soul. So the difference between coming for dance and clarifying and de-stressing for that purpose, and then coming for personal, it was more of an unclear goal, but it was more of a personal journey. And it was understanding things that had happened in my own life and understanding how that fit into how I feel about myself internally, and not putting it through any filters of how others feel about me, and really getting to know myself a lot better and understanding how my experiences in Sri Lanka, the different religions I have seen, the different philosophies that I have learned about, how all of those cumulatively make up who I am. On a personal level, obviously the foremost goal was to be aware. And when you're aware of yourself, the thing I began to notice was all of a sudden the things that affect you from the outside world that don't concern your inner soul begin to not really bother you as much. The stressors in our lives, if we really take a step back and look, they don't come from within us, they come from outside of us. They are either stressors that are happening in other people's lives that they project onto us, or they are things that we project onto ourselves because we think that someone is expecting something from us or someone is thinking something of us. And if we're able to remove all of those things and just look at ourselves and be aware of where we stand in a certain situation. So for myself, if I could remove everything else and see for myself where I stand, on a personal level, it's become very peaceful because I only deal with myself. And I deal with others according to my inner beliefs. And because I am someone who believes in acceptance and empathy, it's become a lot easier for me to be in relationships in different kinds of relationships, whether it be work, school, family, or friends. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
So, in terms of your work, how did it make an impact?
In terms of work, I'm a teacher, and one of the greatest things about being a teacher is that you have all of these children in front of you and you get to build relationships with them. And I've always been told, even when I was training as a teacher and from administrators or mentors, that the greatest thing that you can do as a teacher is to build relationships. Even before you teach them the actual curriculum, if you build a relationship with a student, that will teach them ultimately more than you can with just the curriculum. And with Sookshma, what's been easier for me to do this year is to build those relationships, because once you remove those things that distract you in a relationship, where you take away the assumptions, so I don't worry about what my students may be thinking about me. I don't worry about what my colleagues may be thinking about me, what administration may be thinking about me, and you are true to what you are doing. You remove all those stressors, you remove all those projections, then it becomes much easier to have a relationship with your colleagues or your students. And when you have good relationships, you can't have a workplace or a situation where you don't want to be there. It becomes a very pleasant experience.
So you think Sookshma is recommended for teachers?
I think Sookshma is recommended very much for teachers, because I think teaching as a profession, sometimes we're very alone, which is great for meditation as well. We have our own classrooms, but at the same time we deal with all these kids and whatever they bring into our classrooms with them. And I think that's a huge stressor for a lot of teachers. So if we can just step back and see, okay, they are bringing all those things, but that isn't me, and focus on what you can give to the students. So in that sense, I totally recommend it for teachers.
Excellent. So how did it affect you in terms of relationships with your family, with your husband, with your parents?
Well, I'll speak about how it affected my relationship with my husband. Growing up outside of North America, I had different expectations and different ideas about marriage and dating and relationships in general. So I think I already came from a different point of view when I looked at my relationship with my husband. The biggest change since I started with Sunita and Sookshma is that some of those expectations become more realistic. I think the external world puts a lot of unrealistic expectations on both sides of a relationship. What a wife should do, what a husband should do, what a wife should not do, husband should not do. And then again, it comes back to awareness. If you take all of those things out and you just enjoy who the other person is, because obviously you married them because you liked who that person was, then it becomes a lot easier to appreciate them. It is natural to be able to love them and do things for them out of that affection instead of because it's expected. And that expectation or being told what you should do as a wife or husband, I think, is what leaves a bitter taste in people's mouth and they don't want to go there. So just being aware of who you are in a relationship, especially in a marriage, has been very beneficial to me.
So how about the relationship with parents, or like, was there a change in that?
There was. My parents are getting older, so one of the things that I was always aware of, I'm an only child, so my parents are everything to me. So as they age, it's one of those things that I would sometimes feel sad about, that, you know, they're aging and ultimately one day maybe they will not be with me. And that was one of the biggest stressors for me when I looked at my parents. And the other side of Sookshma is trying to let go of things that are out of your control, like aging. So when I look at my parents now, I only think about enjoying the now, so enjoying who they are, remove all the other thoughts about what's going to happen in the future. They are with me now, so it changes in the way that every moment that I have with them is very precious, and I enjoy every moment I have with them, and I look for ways to find moments that I can enjoy with them as well. From very early on, I was interested in my studies. Even in Sri Lanka, it was something that it was almost like a meditation even at that age, where I could just shut everything else out and that would be my reality as long as I had to study. So studies were something that I loved to do. I loved achieving academic goals. When I came to Canada, my scope shifted a little bit. It wasn't just about academics. I found more interest in arts and literature, and I could pursue those more freely here than in Sri Lanka. So my first degree, a Bachelor of Fine Arts, was actually in fine arts and art practice in the studio setting, with lots of art history and literature rolled into it. And I also pursued my education training, which was in art education for secondary students. And while I was teaching, then I began to pursue my master's in conflict analysis, which was going back to my roots in Sri Lanka and trying to understand where I came from and my interest in conflict studies because of the conflict in Sri Lanka. Now, as I take a step back, I've gone back fully into what I'm doing at my work. I'm also thinking about where I could go next and my goals for what my next step should be in academics, because I believe I will be a constant learner. So I'm always trying to see what I can learn next. Sookshma is helping me in the sense that I am not as scared to take a step forward and say, yes, I will write that exam and see if I make it, or yes, I will sit down and I will study again after 10 years of not studying. Those kind of things become a lot easier because you're more at peace. So there's really nothing stopping you from reaching for those goals. So even though I had those goals in my mind, there's always a little voice that says, oh, maybe you can't do it. And that kind of goes away when everything else is calm around you and you really have time to think within yourself and go, okay, do I really want to do this? Sunita has spent a lot of time advising me on food that we eat and just about what we put into our body, and it was something that I hadn't really thought about, because we all hear about things we should and shouldn't eat, but it's more of a holistic view that you get from Sunita. And it goes back to the awareness. You're more aware of what you're putting into your body, so you become aware of, do I feel healthy today? I don't feel healthy. What did I eat that's making me not feel healthy? And those kind of questions start to come into your mind because you've had those conversations with Sunita, or because you are more aware of how your body is reacting to those elements that you're putting into your body. So in that sense, it has changed. And when you're aware on that very subtle level, which is what Sookshma is all about what you're putting into your body and how you're affected by it, it becomes easier to say no to those things that affect you in a negative way. So it's less tempting to say no to things that are not good for you. Sunita, I think the first thing you notice about her is the peace. There's a peace and calm about her, and for me that's the biggest thing, because especially after you begin sessions with her and you spend time with her and you leave after a session and then you meet others who are not as peaceful and you see that difference, then you become more aware of the peace that is within her and around her. So I think for me, the biggest aspect of Sunita is that peacefulness that I feel when I'm around her. And it's also the ease with which I can talk to her. It's very important for me to be able to have a conversation, going back to how we build relationships, and that's what I do at my workplace. That's how I interact with my family, and it's very easy to have a conversation with her. So those are some of the things that attracted me to her. And things that have kept me here have been the guidance that she's given me as a teacher in terms of how I should be eating, how I should be taking care of myself, and the love she has shown for me and showing me how I should be taking care of myself. Sookshma for me is understanding myself, where I came from, how all the experiences that I have had made me who I am. And Sookshma is also a way for me to take care of who I am as I go forward into my future and as I get older. So it's a way of life. It's something that always stays with you, unlike just a meditation that you do at a certain time in a certain place during your day. Sookshma is something that's always with you. It's something you always practice. So for me, that's been the biggest gift from Sookshma. Physically, the biggest change was that Sunita gave me a lot of guidance on what to eat, foods that I should avoid. So starting my diet off with soups and things that are really good for you. She would always show me how to make certain things that would be good for me, how to make sprouts, how to put ingredients in the soup that were good for digestion, good for weight loss. And once you start those kind of things daily, then you start to feel a difference. You feel better. Usually what I noticed is at work, lunch is around 11:15, and after my lunch I would feel drained. It was almost like, digesting my lunch was taking half of my energy. I couldn't give that energy to my students anymore. And the biggest difference was if after I changed my diet, I was energetic for the whole day, and I felt like that was the biggest change, because I didn't feel tired or worn down. Felt like I could keep going. I think the mind is less reactive. I tend to react, which is, I think, a human nature. When a problem poses itself, you try to solve it. And I was a big solver, trying to solve everything. But now it's more calm. So it's not about reaction, it's more about understanding. And I think that's where peace and stability comes for the mind. Emotionally, I suppose it goes back to your mind, because if your mind is stable and at peace emotionally, you're not as rash with your emotions, because you're not reacting emotionally to someone or something. It's easier to bring out those emotions that make you feel better, because being happy, for example, is easier if you're at peace and if you're not reacting to something someone else is projecting to you. Spiritually, I think that's a journey that hasn't ended yet, because that's something that I think goes beyond just a little bit of time. I think as I go through Sookshma and I go through my meditation, I think I will learn more and more about what spirituality means to me. But I am more understanding of all the experiences I have had with different religions that I have read about, different belief systems that I have been interested in. So I understand a little bit more about what they say and how the soul fits in to all of those belief systems. Advice would be, if you can, try to come and meet Sunita and see if you feel the same as I did. Do you feel that peace? Do you feel that comfort? Do you feel that love? As for Sookshma, if you've ever wondered about life in general and how all of this is supposed to mean anything, I think it's something that's internal. The meaning of life is really within yourself, and the only way I think that you can do that is through meditation. And this is a great way to start thinking about who you are in the middle of all the chaos that surrounds us every day.